We are back for episode 7 of GearGeek.com, the interview series. My name is Matt. I'm joined by my co-host Zach. Zach, how you doing today?
I am doing good. Just trying to get through these dog days, last few weeks of no hockey. We're so close, we can taste it, and it's getting exciting.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Well, as you said, yeah, it's only a few weeks now. Players are going to be reporting back soon, and it's going to be into the busy time for equipment. We're gonna always love the end of summer, beginning of fall when the guys start coming back and start getting on the ice, in their actual NHL cities, and you start seeing them using all the new gear and everything. It's an exciting time for our following and people like us. So I hear you, but in the meantime, I hope you stay cool in the process because I think where both of us are, it's been pretty humid for some days in a row here.
It has been the worst summer ever. I've never wanted to spend all my time in an ice rink before than this past summer. It's been insane. So yeah, 100%.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, in terms of from equipment sides and everything like that, obviously, we had development camps. We've had these summer leagues going on, the Beauty League, the Cap City Elite League, so many other the LSHL up in Quebec. That's been a good one. Shout out to those guys. They always do a good job with their coverage, and we appreciate always their willingness to collab with us. A lot of good guys up there in Montreal. Um, but we as per usual, and this is what I love, like and I don't necessarily blame the people who aren't as well versed in the equipment. Is a lot of people tend to think that we kind of shut it down for the summertime, and that's why at the end of every season we always remind people, like, we don't take the summer off because
Right.
there's so many things to do. There's going to be so many sightings, given some of these off season events, the development camps, even the draft, and all these summer leagues, and wherever these guys are skating, in Europe, in North America, that there's always some cool sneak peeks on equipment that could give us hints for what's to come in the coming season. But this season in particular, like, and I know you and I have talked about it a little bit, but like, um and I'm sure a lot of other people are super excited for this too. But I'm just so intrigued on what's going to happen with these new Warrior skates. The Alpha
Yeah.
Pros, for those of you who don't know, we've seen a couple guys wearing them over the summer here. Adrian Kempe is one. There's been a couple of other sightings, a couple of good candidates that could be using them come the season. But at the same time, like, you wonder if how long it's going to take. Like, is it going to be right out of the gate? Is like Ivan Demidov or Adrian Kempe or maybe Matthew Schaefer from the Islanders going to be wearing them immediately in training camp? I don't know about you, but that still seems like it's a little bit of like a far-fetched thing. Maybe I'm completely wrong, and maybe these guys have been wearing these Warrior skates on the side and are like, yeah, I'm totally ready to wear these, for my first NHL training camp. Obviously, that would be like a Schaefer or a Demidov type of
Yeah.
person. Um, but what's your opinion on that? Are how long, if you had to give a prediction, how long are we until we see a pair of Alpha Pro skates in an NHL game? Not a practice, in an NHL game, because we've already essentially seen them in practices.
Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna be this season, unless a player just really, like you said, falls in love with them. I just feel like,
So you think the whole season could go by without them?
I mean, potentially, I mean, maybe towards the end of the season, I think that they're still so new, and they're still trying to like get a feel for it. That's hockey players are creatures of habits. That I just don't know if when it comes down to games that mean something. if they're going to want to go with something new, especially that's important as the skates. I mean, again, I could be very wrong, and they could be putting these on in training camp and being like, "Oh no, these are exactly where they belong or where they need to be," and I'm ready to rock them full time. But I think there's still going to be probably a little bit of growing pains with them, and maybe they're still trying to iron out some of the details, and they're going to get their feedback a little bit and adjust maybe on the fly. But yeah, again, who knows? Hockey players are strange, man. One day they'll wear the same pair of gloves for their entire career, Brad Marchand, and then you go and you got guys that'll switch things up, on the fly because of the brand new shiny thing. So, I mean, it's anybody's guess. Particularly, I think it'll be later in the season, if not early next season.
All right, that's fair. Interesting. I tend to think that, since we there's already been a bit of momentum that um maybe by January we might see
Yeah.
somebody surprise and just say I'm giving these a go. But obviously well, only time will tell and that's obviously a statement we make a lot in this field and in this particular subject. So we'll have to wait and see, but it's going to be fun. Like I can't wait until whoever it's going to be with those Warrior skates. It's going to be fun to see who that first person eventually is. I remember we put out a post the other day, and I don't know if you saw. Like we had a lot of people predicting that it was going to be Leon Draisaitl, and in all due respect to our followers who were predicting it to be Leon, but. I would bet a pretty significant amount that it's not going to be Leon as the first player wearing those Alpha Pros in an NHL game. And the way I see it is like he is pretty much along the lines of that creature of habit that you were just alluding to. And he loves those ribcore skates. He's been wearing them for a long time. I don't see uh him wearing those skates for a number of years, maybe even ever,
If ever. Yeah.
if we're being honest. But like we said, crazier things have happened, and I don't know if like he could get like a raise in his Warrior deal. Obviously that might not even be possible. But like I said, there truly is no set to the way guys operate, especially guys as big of names as Leon Draisaitl. The the surprises can be endless. So we shall see when it comes to him.
I mean, if Vegas is putting betting numbers on it, you'd have to think like a Schaefer or Demidov would have to be high favorites. You think they would
Yeah.
probably want to go with the younger guys that haven't
Yeah.
established themselves in the league just yet.
And you mentioned Demidov. So far in the LSHL, and from what I've seen from him over the summer, he's not wearing their helmets. So it looks like he is gonna be, using their sticks, using their gloves and all that. But it does appear like he's gonna be along the lines of Matvei Michkov, and he's like, nope, I'm sticking with my Bauer helmet. So it does look like Matthew Schaefer is gonna be in the Warrior helmets. So that'll be good for them. I'm sure they're going to be happy with that. But I'm very very interested to see with a guy like Demidov and especially he's in the Mecca of hockey essentially up there in Montreal. So like I'm sure Warrior is fortunate enough that they were able to land him and they're like, okay, fine, Ivan, like if you want to wear
Do
Bauer helmets, that's fine, but please don't pull a fast one on us and change your gloves and change your stick, like Matthews did with the Bauer skates in December. So I'm sure they'll be grateful as long as he sticks with um the gloves and sticks. But who knows? Like maybe we're still a few weeks away, so maybe they convince him enough to be in the helmet by the time the season starts. So we will see.
Yeah, while you're talking about like, you're interested about the Warrior Alpha skates, I'm also really interested looking to this season if Sherwood is going to make more of a jump. They've just released their morph stick, and I just wonder if they're going to take the next step and start landing a few more, bigger name players coming into the season or throughout the season too. I know they've done a lot of work on, from what I've been reading, on the more stick to kind of address an issue. There was rumors with the record legend that the flexes were kind of not where they were supposed to be. Stuff was a lot whippier, stiffer than what was the flex was going to be. So I'd be really interested to see if they really address that, and if they're really, now that they're kind of foot in the NHL again and dialed in their equipment. Because I mean, personally, I've used their gloves, and I think their gloves are becoming some of the most comfortable gloves available right now. And I know they still got, and that's saying a lot considering where they were at with the code V's and stuff like that. But I'm just curious. I'm just really curious to see if we're going to see more Sherwood athletes this year.
Yeah, I feel like we've been asking that for at least the last 2 years now,
Yeah.
and for good reason. Really quick, I just want to share with our followers, we do have an interview coming up very shortly. We will be joined later by Ian Roberts from ITR Hockey, the glove guy, as we know him. We've got a great conversation with him coming on this episode. More on that a little bit later. But yeah, man, totally. And it's funny that you mentioned that because this summer a guy like Anthony Beauvillier is doing the same thing that he did last summer. Last summer he's playing up in that LSHL in Quebec there, and last summer he was seen using the Record Legend Pro, and we thought, okay, like at some point this season he's probably gonna be using that Record Legend Pro during the season. Well, that never happened, but sure
Right.
enough, now again this summer he's trying the Record Morph in the LSHL. So maybe this time around will be different, and he will be a new Sherwood guy. But yeah, I mean, I don't trying to think of who could be an absolute wild card to give it a shot. I mean, I don't know what Brady Kachuk's contract situation is or agreement situation is with True. But if that's coming to an end, or if Brady Kachuk is willing to just call it off on his own, or whatever, and maybe Sherwood has sticks ready for him. I'm sure Sherwood would love for the opportunity to have both Kachuk brothers
Oh yeah.
in their stuff. So maybe he's a potential target, but um yeah, I
It,
mean, I don't know if you're the one who brought it up. I don't know if you
no,
thinking you had anybody in mind who might surprise this year.
I think honestly you got to just kind of look at the teams with their major guys. So you got like Toronto and Chicago, and then obviously, like you said, Brady Kachuk potentially, but just because of the Matthew ties. I think that's where it starts. And you talked about players using it in the summer and stuff like that, and they don't end up using it in the season. It's like it almost feels like the players want Sherwood to reach that level where they feel comfortable making that switch. I feel like everybody growing up at one point or another used the classic Sherwood 50-50 wooden stick, and just Sherwood hockey was always like, kind of growing up, was one of those things that you always recognize and all that. And I feel like a lot of player, for nostalgic reasons, want Sherwood to get there. And it's just, hopefully, I mean, they're making strides. I really think they're close. It's just a matter if they can get that one more right guy that's going to put it over the edge, and who that guy could be.
Yeah, I mean, and I think like they've got the Brinkhead in Detroit, obviously too. So there's that. I think like ideally, and I'm not speaking for them, but I kind of am speaking for them. I think like they would probably love to get somebody from like the Rangers or Boston. Boston probably be tough. Like they're like
Yeah,
Warrior does their best to get those guys. But imagine if they could get like a Charlie McAvoy using one of their sticks. Pasternak might be tough. But imagine if they could get even an Elias Lindholm, a guy who's going to be in the top six. The Rangers, JT Miller showed a tendency to be an STX guy back in the day. Not a tendency, he was an STX
yeah.
guy for quite a while. So maybe they target a guy like him and say, "Hey, JT, give us a shot, man." Like, obviously, it depends what his partnership with CCM is, and if he's willing to step on some toes and maybe completely call it off, which isn't easy to do. But I'm just thinking out loud. I do think they would like to dip into the Rangers, potentially the Bruins, something like that.
Hit up the major markets, all the
Yeah.
major markets. That's going to get the most eyes. That's where they got to be focusing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's gonna be it's fun, man. It's that time of year, and who knows? Like it could be it could be one of those guys that we mentioned, and that's what makes this fun. And the other thing that I'm starting to get giddy about, and we just actually had like a post about this the other day, is now's the time of year where we start to see the shifting in equipment that's going on with some of the college teams. We already found out the Clarkson Golden Knights are moving to Bauer for this upcoming season after a decent run with CCM. They shared a post that showed their new equipment coming in, and they showed all the Bauer gloves and protective gear there. Um, have to think there might be a few more. I certainly hope there will be a few more because that'll be more fun for us if there are some colleges shifting around and set to start a new partnership with a new equipment company. But those are definitely always fun to see, and it's always cool to see the big name guys. They are the big name guys at schools are pretty much just like NHL players. I mean, once the new sticks start leaking, which nowadays they start leaking in November and December, like right around like World
Yeah,
Junior time comes up. So you remember Ryan Leonard last year when he was in BC, he had the Vision prototype pretty much at the same time that the NHL guys started getting it. So
right. Yeah,
it's a fun time to kind of pinpoint. And we got Gavin McKenna in the NCAA this year. So and that's the other thing. Like we wrote about this on the blog not long ago, but him ending up at Penn State. He's unfortunately for Bauer, he's gonna have to be in the CCM helmet and the CCM gloves unless there's some kind of new rule or new exemption that we don't know about. But I highly doubt that's the case. But we will see. And of course, I mean Bauer's probably still fine that at least he gets to wear their skates and use their stick. But I'm sure that they were kind of crossing their fingers and hoping that he would end up at Michigan State just so
yeah,
he could be wearing their helmets and wearing their gloves. But um, whatever, just a minor detail, and he'll still be using the flylights for definitely if we had to predict.
yeah. God, good. Lots coming up. A lot of
Yeah.
fun.
And
Excited.
we're still so many weeks away, and we already got
Yeah.
this much in the pipeline. But um, without further ado, we will turn it over to Ian Roberts. That's Ian Roberts from ITR Hockey, the glove guy. We had a fantastic conversation with him, and we hope you folks will enjoy. A little bit different guest this time around. Not an NHL player, not an equipment manager, but we know him as the glove guy. Thank you so much for joining us, Ian Roberts from ITR Hockey. Ian, how you doing, man?
I'm good, guys. Happy to be here. Definitely excited to sit down and talk about gear for a bit. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I mean, we've had some back and forth. We've had some collab posts on Instagram and on social media that have made their rounds, and some of the stories that you've already let me know about. I'm just so happy, so excited to be able to get into them here and give you an opportunity to probably elaborate on them a little bit more because we most of our chatting so far has been through text. So I'm excited to pick your brain and give our followers and our listeners a chance to learn a little bit more about what it is that you do and some of the cool projects that you've been working on, over the years. So this should definitely be a good one.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Should be a lot of fun, guys.
Hey.
Yeah. So let's just start right at the beginning. Why don't you give us like your background in hockey? How did you get into the game? Did you play? You know, what made you kind of fall in love with the sport?
Yeah, for sure. I'll try to go kind of down the hockey playing route, and then we'll jump back over to the gear side. They intersect quite a few times, but we'll try to keep them separated here just for the storytelling purpose. But yeah, grew up playing. Started out in net. I can remember early age watching my dad play men's league. He was a goalie, and was just always fascinated with the gear. I think that drew me into it right away. And then we lived in Michigan, about an hour north of Detroit. So we'd always get the CBC feeds and get Hockey Night in Canada. So I always remember watching those games on Saturdays, and I don't know,
Oh,
my attention was always drawn to the goalies specifically. So I don't think there was ever a question. I was going to jump right in the net as soon as I started playing, and that's what ended up happening. Ended up playing travel hockey through most of my younger years in Metro Detroit. Ended up playing ACHA hockey at the University of Michigan Flint. Had a great time playing. Again, I think as much as I loved playing, and I think my talent level probably peaked a little early, maybe 15 or so. So I think I missed the boat on taking the career anywhere. But the gear side of things always drew me in, and kind of hopping back over to that side. Like I said, loved the gear, loved the goalie gear specifically. And just remember, as a kid, I don't know if you guys ever had like the highlights magazines or some of like the magazines that kids would get and look through. Well, for me, I was always like the Vaughn brochures, looking through those and checking out all the goalie gear and stuff. So I remember being a bit strange in that regard. And one of my favorite pastimes, every Saturday, I'd be like, Dad, can we go down to the Perron's Hockey World and just walk the aisles here? And I remember looking at all the goalie gear, player gear specifically as well, and just trying stuff on. And in my own mind, as a 10-year-old, I don't know who thinks like this is a 10-year-old, but I'm like, oh yeah, this glove, the crease is really nice right here. I think this is solid. Yeah, it's a good design type of thing. So from an early age, I don't know, I was just always sucked in with the gear. And then hopping back over to playing, I remember getting a few custom goalie sets over the years, and I loved just the design aspect of that, playing with the customizers that they'd put online, seeing what the different colorways would look. So yeah, no, I don't know if that gives you a good answer on that, but growing up playing, like I said, got in the net early, played at a decent level, but I think I was always more drawn towards just the gear side than maybe the game itself. So
there
Oh,
we
that's
go. Yeah,
awesome.
mine was USA Hockey Magazine. I don't know if you
Yep.
guys
yeah, yeah,
yeah, always at like it was always either like the second or third to last page where they had like the new like that's where like your synergies were and all the new like releases were advertised there. So yeah, and I had um it was a little bit later, but I had a Piranhas in my hometown here
yeah. Okay,
too later on. So yeah, and that was more so like in my teen years even.
yeah.
And yeah, I just that was music to my ears right there. Just not even not no not even with the expectation to go in and buy something.
Yeah, exactly. Just
I
checking
just
it out.
needed tape. Like I just you know what I need a roll of tape. So I'm just gonna go to Piranhas just so I can get a few rolls of tape and just stare at these sticks that I can't quite afford yet. But one of these days I am gonna be able to afford them. So yeah, man, that's awesome. I mean that's just I feel like so many people listening to this can probably relate to that growing up as a hockey player and as a gearhead. So that's awesome. Just love hearing it come from more people. It's always good to know that, we aren't alone type of thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. I remember one specific story or moment. I remember being in the Piranhas, and this was when the original Synergy had just came out, and everybody was obviously very, very enamored with it. And being a goalie guy, like I would always look at the player gear, but not super, super in depth. And just checking out that stick, I don't know what it was. It just like grabbed my imagination right away. I don't know if it was like the price point, which I don't remember what it was. It was expensive at the time for a stick, obviously. But
I
I'm like,
think the
this thing
junior
is
was like
just like,
130, so the
yeah.
senior had to be a little bit more than that.
I
It
think it
had
was
to,
like 179. I feel like that was the standard like senior at that one point.
Yeah,
yeah, which sounds like super cheap these days.
Yeah,
yeah,
For
yeah.
like
right.
what
Pro
the
level
paper
sticks are now.
Twilight's going for now and everything and that type of thing. But yeah.
Yeah, I
Anyway,
remember just holding that in my hand, and I'm like, I feel like I'm holding like a piece of NASA technology. Like this is just space age. This is crazy. And obviously, you see the level that they've taken things to now. But yeah, I don't know. It's been cool to see the evolution of the equipment in the sport.
totally.
Growing up in Michigan, you have to be a Detroit fan. You're rocking the Chuck Chili's Chili Chicago Blackhawk hat. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
you
yeah,
feel
good
Oh,
eye,
there we
good
go. Yeah,
eye.
I didn't even notice. I couldn't even tell it at first.
feel is
Yeah.
there any like sort of like guilt towards your Red Wings fandom wearing the Indian head?
Yeah, I think I grabbed this out of my dad's closet about 20 years ago, so it's we'll say that's why I'm wearing it. But yeah, no, Chelly's Chili Bar is definitely a staple for anyone that's been there. Great restaurant. I don't think the Chicago location is around anymore, but the one in Detroit is doing well from what I remember. But yeah, no, I think I'm rocking it more for Chelly than for the Blackhawks. But yeah, good
Wait,
eye
wait.
on that.
Before we go any further, and Zach, you might want to plug your ears for this as a Chicago guy. But I gotta ask you, man, what is your go-to Detroit pizza spot? Mine's Buddy's.
Okay.
But I'm a touristy. I'm not a local Detroit guy. I really love Buddy's. Although Nikki's Pizza in Greektown has a pretty good Detroit style pizza too. I want to hear what you got. So my next trip, I'll
Yeah,
I'll definitely be making a visit to whatever you recommend to me right now.
yeah, you got some good taste. I'll say that. So good
Okay. All
choices
right.
there. My favorite, if I'm back in Michigan and I want a nice Detroit style pizza, I'm going with a Jets Pizza. It's a Michigan
Yes.
chain. I think they're into
Interesting.
Ohio now too,
Yeah,
but
There's some
that's
there's
they
Illinois
advertise with
too.
the Blue
okay.
Jackets quite a lot. So
Okay.
yeah, I see them all over the Blue Jackets social pages and on their broadcasts and whatnot. So okay, all right.
Yeah,
You're
I got
I don't know if that's more of a nostalgia factor, if it's the quality of the pizza itself, but that's probably my go-to pie if I'm grabbing a piece of Detroit style.
I
all
got
right.
two
Yeah,
within
I'll
five
take a look.
miles of me in Illinois. So
Okay.
What's it?
and
Jets you got, Zach? By you?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
two.
Cool.
Yeah, two. So they're popping up, and I will say, you said plug my ears, but I will give the controversial take. I think Chicago deep dish is overrated.
Okay.
Mm.
I
I
yeah,
wasn't
I
sure if you were like, oh, like the
no.
tavern style
I like
Chicago.
tavern is good, but I do like the Detroit style. So
Yeah,
I'm in agreement with you guys there.
I swear here in Western New York, I like a lot of these people here have never even heard of Detroit style pizza. And I'm like, you guys don't know what you're missing. Like,
Yeah.
no pizza around here can come close to Detroit style pizza. So yeah, all right, Jets it is then. I guess I gotta make a trip out that way. But I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely check it out.
So, what do you like being a Red Wing fan then? What are some of like your memories of
Hmm.
going to games at the Joe? Obviously the Joe speaks for itself, and you were as a kid, I'm assuming you were like the golden age of the Detroit Red Wings. Like I wasn't a Red Wing fan, but like I feel like there's so many people who like if you didn't enjoy watching the Detroit Red Wings in the late 90s and the early 2000s, unless you're a Chicago Blackhawks fan, Zach, of course, um, then you just didn't appreciate hockey. Because like what was it like as a kid growing up in that era of, the early stages of Hockey Town, I guess you can call it.
Yeah, I think that definitely played a role into my interest in hockey. The Wings being so good during my formative years there coming up. But yeah, late '90s. It was a great time to be a Red Wings fan, and early 2000s, honestly. But yeah, I remember I was fortunate to go to at least a couple games a year. It seemed like nothing crazy, maybe two or three. But we'd always go early, get there for warm ups. That was my favorite thing. Get there, see all the guys superstitions on the ice and just kind of what they did before the games even. It was a good opportunity to get down to the glass and see the gear too. So yeah, that was super cool being a fan then. And I just remember seeing it seemed like for whatever reason all of the Detroit guys had very unique setups. You had Fedorov coming in with the early Nike stuff.
Yeah.
Iserman, Shanahan were big Easton guys. You had just kind of some unique gloves on like McCarty and Larionov at times were wearing like Hespler, Eagle, or TPS or something. So I
Yeah.
don't know. It just seemed like there was a big diverse kind of spread of the different brands that the Wings guys would use. That was always super cool to see.
And Easton
So
Pavel Datsuk back in the day,
yeah,
like that's
yeah,
just
yeah.
so weird to think that like that's how he was early, and then he never even like gave him a try like later on. But yeah, totally. Wow.
Yeah, no, so that was a big part of it for sure. Loved going to the Wings games, and it was cool to see. Obviously, them winning a couple cups there was a really cool thing to witness. I know my favorite guy growing up, probably going back to the goaltending thing, but Chris Osgood. I just thought he was
Mhm.
the coolest goalie ever. So, and wearing he wore that SK 2002, so
Oh, there you go.
that was
Yeah.
like, oh, he's so different. Why is he wearing this weird mask? Compared to everybody else. So that caught my eye. And cool story about Chris. I'm sure we'll kind of get into it when we get back into kind of my origins in Michigan and stuff. But after college, I got into coaching right away and signed on with the goalie school there, Future Pro USA. And one of the clinics that we would do every summer was in Farmington Hills. And cool enough, Chris's son got into playing goalie and would come to that. So I think there was 2 summers in a row we had Chris Osgood's son out there
Oh,
working
awesome.
with us, and got to meet Chris as well. So that was a cool kind of moment to think back on when I was a kid. I'm watching this guy, and now I'm coaching his son out here on the ice. So, yeah, very cool moment indeed. But
Yeah.
That was awesome.
another
How
cool,
is he? He's a good guy, I'm assuming? Like,
yeah, super nice guy. Down to earth, very unassuming. So, I think most people probably didn't recognize him at first in the rink, and then a few people pointed it out, and it was just kind of mayhem. But he was super nice, took the time to say hi to everybody, so that was cool. But I was going to circle back. You mentioned Datsuk there. I remember this had to be his. I know for a fact it was his rookie season, so somebody could go back and look at this. But I'm guessing, I don't know, 2001, 2002, something like that. But he came up to do a autograph signing at the local hockey card shop that was up near me, and so of course I wanted to go get my card signed by him. And I just remember him speaking zero English. I mean, no English whatsoever. There was like a guy there helping him. I don't know if it was his agent, if it was his buddy or whatever, but basically it was his like translator guy. And it was just like, oh, come up, put your thing down. He signs it. He'll give you a thumbs up, whatever. Yeah, it was kind of a funny experience. And as a kid, I'm like, man, why is this guy? He doesn't talk or anything. Like, what's going on here? And then later, I'm like, well, that makes sense. He didn't understand anything anybody was saying. But nice enough guy. But yeah, kind of a funny little story there about Pavel.
yeah, that's funny because, and you guys probably remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't it Brett Hall that like he was telling the story when he joined that 0102 Red Wings team, and he was like he saw Pavel Datsuk's name, and he was like, "Who the hell is this kid?" Like,
Yeah.
and then he sees him at training camp. He's like, "This kid doesn't speak a lick of English. I don't know. I've never heard of him. Like." I don't even know when the Red Wings picked him, and how
Hmm.
could you if he was like a sixth round pick or whatever. And then he was like, and then I saw him play, and I'm like, whoa, I might not be able to communicate with him, but I'll just we'll speak hockey. We'll let our hockey actions do the thing and make it happen. So wow, that's funny.
Yeah.
Um,
I think honestly that was one of the strengths of the Red Wings in that era. And this is, I think, kind of pre-internet-ish era, but they somehow had scouts in strategic areas where they were able to get some late picks, whether it was Datsuk or Zetterberg or whoever.
oh yeah.
And like, I mean, that just put them head and shoulders above some of these other teams. So I don't know. They need to find some sort of strategic advantage now to kind of regain some of that former glory. But yeah, they had some really good picks back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. Like that's essentially what set him up for like the back-to-back dynasties. Well, not
Mm.
back-to-back dynasties, but like 20 years of success, let's call it, of making the
Yep,
playoffs. But hey, yeah, Michael Branzing, Nygaard, and Alex Sandin Pellikka, they look pretty promising. So hopefully for you Detroit folks, you have suffered enough, I'd say, of no playoffs. So. It could be on the rise, but we shall see.
for sure.
So I guess now that we got into like where you were originally from in Michigan and whatnot, it's our understanding, and you said earlier, like you and your wife are not in Michigan anymore. Where are you guys now, and what's it like in your new location?
Yeah, we're living in Roanoke, Virginia now. So about 10 hours south of Michigan. Honestly, it's a great spot. Couldn't have pointed it out on a map before we moved here, but my wife got a job offer and we decided to relocate and move south here. And moving down here, like I said, before we had moved after college, I got into coaching kind of as a full-time profession, and was doing that and loving it. But moving down here, I kind of thought, okay, we're moving to the South, somewhere in Virginia. The hockey opportunities are probably going to be pretty far and few between. I was doing some repair stuff. ITR Hockey was a thing, but it wasn't anything to the level that it's at now. So I was like, I'll probably go down, maybe get my real estate license. That'll be it for coaching for a while and just kind of see what happens. But luckily, moving down here was one of the best things that happened for my business. It was right around the time of COVID, so kind of forced to lock down and not really get out as much. So was able to hunker down and just put a lot of man hours into the business itself, get a lot more reps in as far as the skill sets needed, like the repalming and different equipment repair aspects. And yeah, I think that really springboarded my career. And then as far as the coaching goes, too, I was super fortunate. We have a SPHL team here, so a single A professional, one level below the ECHL. If you guys are familiar with the SP at all,
Mhm.
I was able to link up and join their coaching staff and have been part of that for the last couple of years. So surprisingly enough, this move really, I think, propelled my hockey career compared to if we had stayed in Michigan. I think I would have just kind of stayed in my lane and maybe not had to grow as much as I did. So it was a good thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, you never know where life can take you sometimes, but that's good to hear that you were able to latch on to a coaching position. That's something we didn't talk about at all before. So good for you. Hoping that maintains itself.
Yeah, no, it's been such a cool opportunity. Great organization. We're actually owned by the McGinn family, so Jamie McGinn, former NHL player, Ty and Brock as well, all NHL guys. So I think that helps. You have a good ownership group, especially in this league. Goes a long way. So yeah, I've had a really good team the last couple of years. We were fortunate enough to win the championship 2 years ago, I think it was. So that was a pretty cool feather in my cap as far as coaching goes. And again, not something I necessarily expected, but it's just been cool to see things unfold. And like you said, yeah, you never know where opportunities might find you. So it's been a very cool and rewarding experience, especially coaching at this level. I don't know, me personally, I'm probably a little biased, but I think it's one of the more purest levels of hockey. Guys aren't getting paid very much, so they're playing for the love of the sport, and hoping they can maybe claw into the ECHL camp, maybe get a shot at the AHL one day, but that's about as high as these guys are probably going to climb. So I don't know. You get a lot of guys that, like I said, are playing because they're passionate about the game. So that makes the coaching that much more rewarding.
That's
Yeah.
a very good way to put it. I never even thought about that from that perspective. So good on you for finding that angle for it, and that's most certainly a positive way of looking at it. Everybody thinks, oh, SPHL, like who cares? Like what does it matter? But a former coworker of mine, I don't know if you know him. His name is Scott Brand. He's made his way around more so the federal league instead of the SPHL. But like he has made his way around those lower leagues, and like his goal is to like bring like new fan bases into these teams that are in these smaller leagues, and he does a damn good job doing it wherever he goes. So yeah, I mean, hockey's hockey, and whatever you could, it's what you make of it. So good on you for having that perspective for sure.
Yeah, gotta have the positive perspective. When you're doing the 10-hour bus ride somewhere, you're like, why am I doing this? It's like, oh yeah, that's why, that's why. So
There
yeah,
you
you gotta
go.
focus on that.
100%. 100%.
Any slap shot type moments on the road and road
I don't
stories
know
like
about
that?
Yeah, I don't know about on the road. Probably the craziest moment that we had. This was the year that we won the championship. So I think it was 22-23. Had for some reason a rivalry. Well, there was always a rivalry, but the rivalry escalated, we'll say, between us and Knoxville. And it was a home game here, and for some reason, one of their guys just decided it'd be a good idea to torpedo himself onto our bench. So he's on our bench and just ends up swinging on, I don't know, 20 so guys, and then obviously the coaches are trying to stay out of the way, sticks are flying, and then our head coach gets into it with their coach, and the glass partition between the two benches is getting pushed, and it's just kind of going back and forth, and it was just mayhem. So I'm probably underselling it a little
Wow.
bit as well there, but that's probably the closest to a slap shot moment that we had. But yeah, no, you see some things in the SPHL that maybe you don't see in the higher leagues, but it's all good fun.
It's awesome.
Totally. Yeah, so go switching back to like the gear side and a little bit more about, what you do. Obviously we know now from the early going of this conversation that you are a passionate a guy when it comes to equipment. You said about how you were as a kid and going to Pirani's and all of that. But, repalming gloves is a very specific category. And me, when I was a kid, I never once thought about like repalming gloves and that sort of thing. It wasn't until like, I was in my 20s that I was like, maybe there might be a day where I'll get like my gloves repalmed. But even now, I'm in my 30s now, like I don't think that's ever gonna happen. I'm just gonna get like a new pair of gloves or whatever.
Yep.
But when did you decide like, yeah, I want to turn like repalming gloves into my career? Like when did that become like the part that you focused on and just like, yes, I want to do this?
Yeah. Great question. Um, I again kind of going back to childhood memory. I don't know, all these questions are kind of triggering things that are helping me kind of remember it. But I
That's what we
remember,
love. Yeah, we
yeah.
want we want the stories from the early days. Yeah, yeah.
I think it was my 10th or 11th birthday. I can't remember specifically, but my dad said, "Yeah, hey, we got a surprise for you. I think you're really gonna like this. Whatever, we got to hop in the car and drive." And we're driving along, and we end up in Oxford, Michigan, and that's where the Vaughan goalie equipment factory is. There's one in London, Ontario, and then also Oxford. And we pull up there, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on here?" He's like, "I got you a factory tour. We're gonna get to walk through, and they're gonna show us how the pads are made and everything, and all this stuff." And I remember that was like the coolest thing I think I could have ever experienced. Like that was just so neat. Just seeing the pads in different parts, like different steps in the building procedure, seeing all the patterns that they had, the warehouse of materials, and all that stuff. So I think that really left a lasting impression. I'm like, man, I think I want to like work in goalie equipment or some sort of player equipment. Like this is super cool. So I think that was an early memory that kind of maybe pushed me down that road. And then as I got a little bit older, honestly, the whole genesis of ITR hockey started just me tinkering with my own gear. Like I said, playing goalie. Occasionally you're feeling a shot or something through your chest protector or whatever, and I'm like, I think I could add some padding to this, maybe beef it up a little bit. I'm kind of a not the biggest guy, so I'm like, maybe I can make my chest protector a little wider, maybe cover a little more net or something. So, got into modifying my own gear a lot, and then slowly, just kind of organically players on my team would ask, "Hey, can you fix this?" And sure, I'll give it a try. And then from there, started realizing, hey, there's a bit of a demand for this. People are interested in it, and maybe I can kind of explore this. But I would say the first pair of gloves I repalmed was probably in 2012. So I've been doing it for a minute here. And that was, I remember, for any of my equipment manager friends that are listening, you probably know what a speedy stitching sewing all, but basically it's just a wooden handle with a big giant needle on it that you use to do a lot of hand repairs. But that's what I used to repalm my first, I don't know, probably 50 pairs of gloves or something, which would take forever. It's not the right equipment for it, but I was like, I'm just going to try this. We'll see what happens. So, yeah, slowly just started getting into it, doing repairs and, like I said, doing stuff by hand. And then I remember, I think it was 2017, I got my first industrial sewing machine, and that was like, oh my gosh, this is the golden age. I've made it. No more having to hand sew these palms in. I can really try to see what I can do with this now. So that was kind of the next step. But honestly, it's been a natural process that has just kind of built on itself year over year. And I think if I could give like any advice to somebody who's like, oh, I want to get into gear, like this is a cool story. How do you kind of do it? Honestly, like if you want to be really good at something, you have to get like the 10,000 hours or 10,000 reps, whatever you're going to do. Like you have to put the time in and get the reps in order to become kind of like masterful in any sort of skill. So I think back to those early years where I'm doing equipment repair, not really knowing what's going to work, what isn't going to work, a lot of trial and error, doing stuff by hand, and then finally getting my first machine. I think that really kind of set me on the path for the success that I'm finding today. It's not something that I just woke up last year and was like, "Hey, I think I want to repalm gloves." It's been naturally building. But to kind of go back to what you were saying earlier, getting that first machine was big. It's a cylinder arm machine, so that's kind of what you want to use if you're doing a lot of glove repalming. So getting on that, getting really proficient with that. Was a huge step, and that kind of took me from 2017 to 2020. And during that time, I was using a lot of pre-made palms. There's a company in Canada called Nash that sells just a kind of a generic palm if you're going to put it in a glove. You guys are probably familiar with those.
Yep.
Well-made palms, it's a good palm, nothing wrong with that. But there's obviously if we were to say, hey, you want a CCM, a 14-inch glove. Okay, are you talking jet speeds? You're talking HG12s? You talking HG97s? You talking CCM tax? Like the variance in one size of glove is so different just because of the different models. So when you're using the prefabbed palm, it's just really tough to get a good fit. You know what I mean? If you're looking for just functionality, I need a palm put in my glove. Okay, we can go that route. Put this in there, and it'll last you a little bit. So I was doing that, like I said, once I got that machine for the first couple of years, and then around 2020, when everything really started to take off, I was like, okay, I'm going to take this to the next level here. I'm going to really see some of the goats that are doing this. You had the Custom Pro Repairs in Montreal, Pat and Ken up there. You have Hockey Menders in Michigan, a guy named Joe Esposito. They were kind of the pinnacle of the repalming space at the time. And developed a relationship with those guys, and they were kind enough to kind of share some tips and tricks, but also just were super friendly and didn't necessarily try to gatekeep the information, which I'm super grateful about, and allowed me to again just get more reps, expand my skill base, and started building my own custom palms. And that's kind of where you see just the functionality side of repalming, where we're using those generic palms going into the custom palm space. That's where you get into the ability to just do some crazy custom work, and where a repalm can honestly feel just like a stock factory palm did. So yeah, that's kind of a bit of a long-winded answer there, but that's kind of the general progression. And then, like I said, 2020 started kind of doing the custom palms. And then in I think it was maybe 2022, 23, Custom Pro Repair started to say, okay, we're going to close up our doors. They were kind enough to reach out to me and say, hey, do you guys want to kind of take over, take our book of business? And I was like, of course, it's such a great honor, and was able to purchase some materials and stuff from them. And then about 6 months later, Joe with Hockey Menders also decided he was going to call it quits and retire. And I was able to pick up a couple new sewing machines from him to expand my fleet. That really kind of took the trajectory from I wouldn't say a slow crawl, but just getting those reps in, and then things just kind of took off to the moon from there. So that's kind of brought us to our present day operation. We got a couple machines here, three different machines. Moved my shop out of when I started out, it was a spare bedroom in my grandma's house, and now we got a nice big workshop here that we rent. And yeah, it's turned into a whole operation. So it's been very cool to see the organic growth over the years.
Nice. Yeah,
That's
that
awesome.
that about the custom pro guys, because we, very vividly remember them, obviously, and like just on social media, like on X or whatever, oftentimes like we'd make a post about whoever, and then they would like swoop into the replies and be like, "You mean like these?" And I'd be like, "Yes, exactly like those." We had a good relationship with them, so I didn't know that you took over their book of business like that. So that's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, they were super great or super nice, and I was super grateful. Like I said, I was able to get some materials from them, got a lot of patterns from them. They were kind enough. I know Ken sent out a pretty extensive email, kind of saying like, if you need work done, this is the guy to reach out to. So coming from them, I think that carried a ton of weight. So that was kind of honestly my first foot in the door when it comes to NHL and pro work. And then 2 summers ago, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the PHATS conference, but it's basically the equipment managers conference every year. So I went 2 summers ago and kind of set up as a vendor there. That was such a cool opportunity to meet some of the equipment managers that I hadn't met at that point, or it was just guys that I had met electronically. So kind of making those face-to-face connections there also was a big proponent in kind of boosting things up to the level they're at now.
So would you say so taking on the those books or like was that your like holy crap moment? This is gonna be like a legitimate thing, or was there like working with a certain team or player that kind of really was like, oh, this is legitimate. Like I can make this a career.
Yeah. Yeah, that was your original question 20 minutes ago before I went on that ramble, so I apologize. But yeah, no.
Oh,
Yeah, honestly, leading up to that point, it was I don't know if it was maybe a little bit of self-doubt or what, but again, I was just kind of telling myself, just keep practicing, getting your reps in, get your hours in, make sure that you know what you're doing, you're proficient in your work. I wasn't posting a ton on social media at the time. Again, maybe just feeling a little bit of imposter syndrome, not feeling like I was stacking up to these big players. And yeah, when those guys said, hey, we've seen your work, we think that your quality is approaching, if not just as good as where we're at, we'd feel confident kind of passing the torch to you at this moment. Yeah, to answer your question, 100%. I was like, wow, this is a little bit of validation. I think this is something that I could pursue full time, make it a career and put myself out there. And it's just been so cool to see the growth since then. So yeah, definitely that was the moment where I was like, yep, I think this can be something here.
that's awesome. So looking at like the actual doing like the repalming and all that, how long would you say like the average repalming process takes per glove, assuming you have everything in hand ready to go?
Yeah, so great question. And the answer is going to vary greatly. It depends, honestly, on a whole bunch of factors. Like I mentioned, the patterns before, that's a big one. So if I get a glove in that I have a pattern already for, that saves a ton of time. If not, we're taking the palm apart, every single piece of it, and trying to build a pattern. And sometimes that can be tough because the palm's disintegrated or it's stretched, it's pulled. So maybe the dimensions aren't as true as they were when they came from the factory. So if it is a glove where we have a pattern, we have the material on hand, we're just kind of going through the natural deconstruction, building the new palm, putting it in, and then closing it up. I'd say a great time if we're about 2.5 hours per pair. We're cooking really nice. But there's definitely moments where we get a glove that for whatever reason something's not going right, super frustrating. We got to build a pattern or whatever. And you can spend a whole day working on a single pair. So there's a lot of variance in the time needed on a specific pair of gloves. What's really nice is when we get kind of repeat customers or repeat guys where they're using the same spec glove. And then you know what to expect with the palm. Kind of some of the variances that the installation might you might have to work around, and that really helps streamline the process. So yeah, 2.5 hours is pretty solid.
So on a good day, like you get two or three pairs of gloves on a good day. Like that's a full day's work, right? But that's
Yeah,
not the case, like you said, because sometimes it could be one pair for an entire day.
Yeah, so honestly, like I said, a little bit of variance there. For myself, if I can kind of set the bar, and this is when it's just me in the shop, I do have two guys that help me out on occasion, and I'm hoping I can get one guy in here full time in September, and I think that'll help just with kind of some of the preliminary stuff, so the deconstruction, the cutting and tracing of the palms, that'll help streamline things. But yeah, if it's just myself in the shop, if I'm getting two pairs of gloves done a day, I feel pretty good. Some days we're maybe cranking out three or four, and I'm ecstatic. But yeah, those days where it's maybe just one pair, you're feeling a little defeated going home at night. But luckily, there's always more gloves in the queue, so you get another chance
Yeah.
at it the next day. So
Yeah. Wow. Like that's one of those like it makes sense, but like it still makes you go wow like when you hear about it because sometimes you like or I'll speak for myself, I tend to forget that, just how complex and intricate like these things can be. So I mean hearing it from you there, it really like, puts it into perspective a little bit. So very
Yeah.
interesting. Very
And I
interesting.
mean, obviously, that's kind of some of the variance that you get here compared to like if you were to go visit one of the factories that produces gloves, they'll do a production run of the same size or the same model consistently. So you're able to kind of hone in and really focus on things and obviously amplify your production a ton. We did a ton of repalms for Patrick Kane last year, and it's looking like it's probably going to be the same this year. For him, we could definitely multiply that by, two or three per day, just because it's the same glove, it's the same palm. We've done them a ton. We know, the process in and out. But then when it's, maybe we're mixing in some beer league gloves, it's a glove I haven't seen in 6 months or something like that, a bit of a unique glove. That's where you see it takes us a little longer to get things all lined up and all dialed in. But that's also part of what I love about it. Honestly, it's not you get a lot of variance day to day. I'm seeing different projects that need to be solved in unique ways. So that keeps me on my toes and keeps you engaged. So it's kind of a love hate when it comes to that side of things.
Good stuff. So, and just to, I guess, as a piggyback off of that, if you have like a general number, how many different teams are you in constant contact with? And that's like across all levels of hockey. Like, it's is it the equipment managers? We're assuming it's the equipment managers you're talking to, or maybe it is the players directly in some cases. So, give us some insight in that regard.
Yeah, so you're correct. Most of the time, it's the equipment managers, but sometimes it'll be the equipment companies themselves. I do some work for a couple companies that maybe it's a situation where they order gloves in for a guy, and just because of the time it takes for them to get them remade over in Asia and sent back over, it might be easier just to send them to me to modify before they even make it to the team. So sometimes it's work for the gear companies themselves. Sometimes it's the equipment managers. And on occasion, I will have a player reach out to me. It is definitely rare, but it does happen. A cool story about that last year. It was early in the season, but I just went to bed and woke up the next morning and look at my phone, and there's a text, and it says, "Hey Ian, this is Jacob Chikrin. Can you help me with my gloves?" And I'm like, "What? Like this is kind of crazy." So on occasion that does happen. It's a cool moment, but yeah, usually it's the equipment managers that's kind of the in between to help relay the message of what the player's looking to have done on his gloves, and then we're out here executing it and trying to get it done for him. But to answer the other part of your question, it honestly varies. I would say, maybe across all levels of pro hockey, college, junior, maybe 50 or so teams we're at least in contact with at some point during the year. A lot of it is, like I said, problem solving, where maybe it's a one off issue where a team needs something done to a guy's glove, whether maybe he broke his finger, so we're modifying it to add protection, or maybe just a batch of gloves came in that he didn't like, and we're fixing that six pair. And then the next time they order from Bauer, CCM, or whatever, they're able to make those changes. So you'll see some situations where it's like that, where it's just kind of a band-aid fix that we're helping them through a tough pinch. But then you also get situations where, like I said, Patrick Kane or a few other guys where we're repalming or working on their gloves, doing some sort of modification through the entire season. So there's a lot of variance there as far as, what teams are repeat customers through the entire year and which ones maybe just need you to help them with a quick problem that they'll eventually get fixed in the factory. So.
That's
When
that's more than the number of 50 that you said. That's more than I would have guessed. So wow, there you
Yeah,
go.
and
That's
honestly, like
awesome.
I said, that could be like a team that is sending me one pair of gloves one time during the year. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Yeah. Yeah.
it adds
Still
up that
counts though.
through
Still
that. So yeah,
counts.
yeah, there you go. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's a lot of people, a lot of contacts in my phone that have like equipment manager next to their name. That's for sure. So
So when you get a message from one of these equipment managers that hey, can you do these gloves for me? Like, how quick do you need to react to that? Do they like say like, hey, I'm sending you something. They're going to get here tomorrow. We need them by Friday if it's like a Wednesday or something like that, or like is it more like a little bit more leeway for you to build up that work for them?
Yeah, again, it varies greatly, but that definitely does happen. I mean, there are situations where I will get a call from an equipment manager and say, "Hey, we just dropped off a pair of gloves, or the FedEx guy just came to pick them up. We're getting them overnighted. You know, as soon as you get them, can you try to have them back in the mail that same night, overnighted, to meet us on the road somewhere?" So, yeah, that happens. That's a little bit more stressful, but I kind of like the challenge of that too, right? That gets the adrenaline going a little bit. So when those rush orders do happen, it's cool to try to get it pulled off for these guys, and they're always super grateful when you can get that done. But yeah, guys, right now, pro teams are starting to send in their stuff that they'll need for training camp. So again, that gives you a little bit of a runway to try to get those done. But during the season specifically, it seems like a lot of the times it is a rush order. Like I mentioned earlier, if it's a injury or something, obviously that guy wants his glove beefed up and ready to go. Hockey players aren't known for sitting out and missing games, so usually try to get those done as quick as we can, and get them overnighted either to their home rink, or like I said, if they're on the road, we'll have the gloves there waiting for them when they show up for the morning skate.
Yeah, so you're like, it's the same concept pretty much as like when something happens mid-game, a guy loses an edge or whatever, and the equipment manager's gotta go like get it fixed right away. Like you can get surprised like that by something showing up, in your mailbox, and then you got that you need that quick turnaround. So wow, that's another thing that people who are probably just learning about you right now wouldn't realize, but yeah, that's like it's definitely crunch time for you. I'd imagine in situations like that.
Yeah, definitely some quick turnaround times, that's for sure. I got it mapped out perfectly to know how long it takes me to get to the FedEx here and get there before the 6 o'clock express pickup. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, the moment that we're sure everybody's been waiting for. I know I've been waiting for this. I want we want to hear it. We want to hear the Lucas Raymond and the David Perron story about the infamous golf gloves. And if you're listening to this and you don't know what we're talking about, visit ITR underscore hockey on Instagram and find the collab post with ITR Hockey and Us Gear Geek and look for the picture of Lucas Raymond's gloves with the the golf glove palms, and you'll know what we're talking about. But for those that obviously don't know, that there's a very detailed story in it, and I really hope that you can share it with us now because this is a good one. This is just I remember the first time you told it to me and it was just incredible. So the floor is yours, Ian. Take it away.
Yeah, I'll try to recant everything as accurately as possible. But yeah, no, if memory serves correct, so, 2 seasons ago, I've developed a really close relationship with Paul Boyer, equipment manager of the Detroit Red Wings. I've done a number of gloves for Lucas Raymond, obviously, but then Dylan Larkin, Jeff Petrie, a number of guys on their team. So getting a call from Paul wasn't kind of out of the blue, something that happened regularly. And but he calls me this day. He's like, "Hey, I'm going to be sending you some gloves for Lucas Raymond, and I'm throwing some golf gloves in there. He wants to know if you can make a palm out of these." And I'm like, "What? Golf gloves? Like, what are you talking about? This is so strange." I said, "Of course." He said, "Yeah, I'll try. I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a shot." And sure enough, these gloves show up, and there's a couple pair of tailor-made golf gloves in there. And again, this is kind of going back to what I was talking about when I just started doing gear repair. Sometimes you're just kind of going with your instincts and trying to see what might work. So I'm carefully dissecting these golf gloves, trying to salvage as much material out of them as possible. Obviously, they're not very big, so the margin for error is pretty small, but get enough material to carve out an overlay for the glove palm out of the TaylorMade golf glove itself. Build some palms with those on there, and send them back off to Detroit, not really knowing, what the expectation, not having an expectation, but not knowing what his feedback is going to be. And sure enough, a couple days later, Paul calls me and says, "Hey, Lucas tried the gloves. He loves them. He loves them. We're going to be doing these for the rest of the season. You know, you're going to have another box coming in with more golf gloves and more of his gloves to build the palms out of. So that was super cool. But again, kind of a weird situation where I was like, is he going to like these? I don't know. Like they feel nice. They're grippy. They're thin. But again, what's the durability going to be? There was just so many unknowns with it. So it was cool to see that all come together. And he really, if I remember right, kind of hit a bit of a hot streak there and was just putting up points like crazy. I'm not saying it was because of the golf gloves, but it was around the same time. So I don't know. There might have been some sort of correlation there between the two. And he ended up using those palms through the end of that season. At the time, David Perron, also on the Red Wings, and it was toward the end of the season for him. I think I only did two pair in the golf gloves for him while he was with the Red Wings. And then that season kind of ended. Red Wings just barely missed playoffs. You know, everybody was thinking they might squeeze in, didn't end up making it. And then fast forward to David Perron now being on the Ottawa Senators last year. And lo and behold, I get a call from their equipment guy one day, and he's like, "Hey, David's talking about these golf glove palms that you did for him back in Detroit. Like, what's the deal with this?" And of course, here we go again. You know, we're doing this again, and end up making the same kind of overlay style for David Perron that he's been using on his 10K gloves. A very unique glove. I think him and Crosby are the only two guys using that in the NHL right now. But ended up doing that overlay for him, and he's loved that. I got actually like 30 pair of his gloves sitting in the shop right now that I got to put those on to get ready for this season. But it's been weird. Yeah, the golf glove is something that was so unique. You know, a lot of people kind of caught their attention just because of the uniqueness of it and then the crossover between the two sports. So, yeah, when we did that collab post on Instagram, that kind of took off and got a little traction. So, or a lot of traction rather. So that was cool. And then last year, actually, even again, it seems like guys see guys with this overlay and then they want to try it. So I had Tim Stutzel, actually. I think I did four pair for him last year leading into playoffs with the golf club overlay. And so, yeah, I don't know. Guys dig it, man. It's kind of a strange thing, but if they want it, I'm happy to keep doing it for them.
Wait, now, just so I understand, because I don't think I asked you this earlier, there isn't an extra layer under like the part of the palm where the golf glove palm is, correct? Like it's just the golf palm?
No, so it's the golf glove is just an overlay, so it goes
Oh,
on
overlay. Okay,
of
yeah.
their palm itself. Yes. So
Okay,
what
yeah.
I think the reason I think the guys like it is number one, the grip aspect. Like obviously really nice grip feel from that, but it's so thin it almost feels like there is no overlay. So a lot of times you'll see these guys will have single layer palms. And a lot of guys like that. Obviously, in the NHL, they're not worried about durability, so they like the stick feel of the single layer. So I think it is kind of a best of both worlds where they get the added grip that they might get if we were doing an overlay with like a digital leather or something like that. But it's so thin, it really doesn't impact the feel at all. So, or I don't know, maybe these guys are just big golfers and they just want to feel like they're on the course or something. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's been a hit either way. So I'm happy to keep doing them if they want them, like I said.
I bet it could definitely be that latter part right there. The similar feeling of being on the links and being on the ice, like it's got to go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, man, that to this day that was just incredible. And I mean, like you're not on X. You definitely weren't at the time that we did
Yep.
the collab post, but that made its rounds on X too. I remember seeing people were commenting on it like, what in the actual hell is this right now? Like, how is this even possible? Like, there's people who have no idea like about how hockey equipment works. Like, they're maybe they had to be hockey fans, obviously, but they just have no idea how gloves work or anything. They're like, you mean to tell me like somebody can like sew a palm on a glove and then make a golf glove palm out of it? It was just the reactions that we were getting were just incredible. So yeah, that one, especially in the last couple of years, that one is definitely near the top in terms of the buzz and the engagement that it generated. And how could it not with such a unique idea and I guess tip of the cap to you. You pulled it off. You touched on it a little bit earlier, but you said how like were you like when you sent them off, like did you like say a prayer or something before you sent them off? Like, well, like here we go. Let's hope they make it happen. Or like, well, like
Yeah.
how nervous were you like putting on the Red Wing game the next day, like that they got there, like make sure like Lucas looks happy or something out there.
Yeah, no, for sure. Definitely said a prayer when those got sent off. Again, I think the expectation wasn't super high just because they had no idea what to expect. So that was good. I didn't feel like I had a ton of pressure on me. But whenever you're trying to solve a problem for these guys, obviously you're trying to do something that they're going to love, right? So I was like, well, this is the best that I can come up with here, and I thought they looked pretty darn good. And luckily he liked them. But yeah, to answer your question, definitely had the game on the next day, and you can't really see too much on TV, so I'm
Right.
definitely searching Getty images the next day, like trying to zoom in on his glove to see, oh, is that the overlay? I can't tell or not. But yeah, definitely got some feedback and found some pictures of him wearing them and liking them. So that was a cool moment for sure.
I just know my interactions with Paul Boyer, I would be more nervous about just getting the sarcastic text back from him, like saying like, "Oh, that's all you could do," or something like that. Just because he's got that
Yeah.
sense of humor that it's like there's sometimes it's just like, is he serious right now? Is he being serious? Like kind of thing. So like, I think that would be more fear right there, just getting that call from Paul and him giving you, messing with you a little bit.
Oh yeah. He can be a funny guy for sure. So I feel you on that one. That's for sure.
So, would you say is the Perron and Raymond golf glove request your craziest request, or do you got a better one for us?
Yeah, I would say probably from the pro level or NHL level. That's one of the more crazy and unique ones that I've experienced. And again, just because of the nature of the golf glove, it's very tedious to work with those. So I'm keeping those to the NHL guys only right now. Sorry to the beer league guys that might want the golf glove palms, but when it comes to the beer league guys specifically, sometimes I get some of the most off the wall requests from those dudes. And again, if time allows, I love to entertain them. You know, we'll walk through it step by step and be like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a strange request, but I think we can make it happen. It's going to be a lot of shop time, so you might be putting a little bit into these, but 9 times out of 10, they're game to give it a shot and see if they like it or not. So one that I remember recently that was kind of a odd request was a beer league guy from London, really nice guy, but had found some, I think it was Edmonton Oilers Heritage Classic CCM Jet Speed gloves. So the brown with the blue lettering on them, and he couldn't find a 13 inch, could only find 14 inch, and was really really pissed about it. It was like, I need a 13. It's got to be a 13, whatever. He said, if I send you some 14-inch gloves, can we trim them down and make them 13? And off the top, that doesn't seem like too crazy of a request, but digging into it, you have to take every single finger off of the glove, shorten every piece of foam in there, shorten the gussets, shorten the palms, like tighten up the cuffs. I mean, it's a very, very extensive process. But luckily, we were able to get those done for him and dial them in. It took a little tinkering, but we were able to turn a 14-inch glove into a 13-inch glove. Again, so kind of some strange requests there that roll through every once in a while, but that's the most recent one I can think of.
That's incredible. I was gonna ask, like, do you just like chop off the fingers a little bit, or like do you take off like the bottom part of the palm? But you're saying you kind of had the
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
nick
They were
and
deconstructed, I mean,
yeah.
to about the fullest extent that you could take them all apart. And
Wow.
yeah, I mean, pretty much every piece of foam in there you have to just shorten slightly. And luckily, I had an example pair of 13-inch jet speeds here that I could compare it to, because without that, I don't think we could have got it done. But yeah, no, that was a bit of a unique request, but it was cool to see the finished product.
I just hope they last for that guy there in London,
Same.
Ontario. So, I mean, geez, that's he better take good care of him. But like in the event, like if he comes back to you in a year or so and he's like, hey, can you repalm these for me? Like you've already set him up to where that should just be like a standard repalm project, correct?
Yeah, so
Okay.
if they wore through and he needs a repalm, we could essentially just repalm them as if they were a true 13-inch glove. All the dimensions now match a 13, even though the tag on the inside says 14. So, yeah, and I definitely would remember those. So if those came back through, we'd make sure we put the 13-inch palm in them.
That's
Wonderful. Yeah.
So, over your time doing this, has there been a pair of gloves that came in that you're like, wow? I have never thought I would see this player come through, or it was just kind of mind blowing that you're working on this player's gloves. And then I guess a follow up to that too is, do you have a white whale of a player that you really hope comes through that you would love to like try to mess with their gloves a little bit?
That's cool. That'll take me down memory lane a little bit trying to think about this. Um, I would say probably the first time I felt that was working on Brady Tkachuk's gloves. That was the first NHL guy that I had come through. And again, kind of what I was talking about earlier with the manufacturers sometimes needing some help. True had ordered some gloves for him right before training camp, and for whatever reason, the specs just weren't quite set, and they were set to start skating. And I think it was like 6 or 7 days, so not enough time to order a whole new batch in. So they sent them to me, and I was able to modify them to meet what he was looking for on those. And that was a bit of a surreal moment. Like I said, kind of my first NHL client. That was like, wow, okay, this is legit. I think I can maybe make a go at this. And that was kind of that same time period where Custom Pro Repair was going out and Hockey Menders were going out, and they were kind of transitioning over their business to me. So again, just a nice little reassurance there that I was on the right path. But that's happened a couple times. So like working on Brady's gloves, that was a big one. But Patrick Kane, I think that was pretty huge. Just being a Red Wings fan, but then also one of the best USA-born hockey players to ever play. That was pretty cool to work on his. Nikita Kucherov, that was a cool one as well. I mean, there's been multiple moments where I'm like, wow, this is just so surreal that this guy's shop are in my shop, or this guy's gloves are in my shop in Roanoke, Virginia right now. Like, who would have thought that? So yeah, it's happened more times than I can recall. But white whale pair, man, I mean, how could you not say like Sidney Crosby? That would be pretty darn cool. I know there's a guy at CCM that does some repairs and modifications for some of their top guys, so I'm guessing those would probably go to him before they made them to me. But I don't know, a guy that's retired, so I don't know why he would ever send a pair of gloves to me to work on. And I don't do a ton of goalie work, but if Carey Price ever needs any work done on his gloves and they showed up, I think that would probably be a bit of a jaw dropper. I might be stuck in place there just staring at those for a while before I could compose myself. So
That's awesome.
The Duchesne ones were a good pair too. I think that was the first one we ever collabed on.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that was a cool one. And again, that's kind of a situation where because of a shortage on material, Warrior needs some help, and I'm able to step in and kind of fill the void there. Now, his specs are very unique on the palms that he uses. He's the only guy that uses this sort of pattern where it's actually an overlay or a double layer of material on the fingers, but then a single layer in the palm. So usually it's the inverse of that because you want the added durability where the your butt end of your stick is in your palm, right? You want the extra layer
Right.
there. But he just loves the feel of the extra thick fingers, but thinner palm. So unique spec there. Like I said, he's the only guy that has that exact construction of palm that I know of. But the material at the time that they didn't have was Petard's Digital, which is a type of leather. I had a stockpile of it, and unfortunately, that company had closed, so Warrior wasn't able to get some for a short period of time there. And I was able to jump in and repalm a bunch of gloves for him right before playoffs. That was. And that was kind of going back to the surreal moments. That was a cool time. I remember he scored, I think it was the series clinching goal in OT that year. I can't remember who they were playing exactly, but they had come back. I think they were down pretty significantly in the series, and he got the OT winner with those gloves. So that was a pretty cool moment for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I remember yeah, I remember you explaining some of those details to me in that early going. Yeah, and thinking like, wow, what a standout pair. And that's probably that's pretty much the reason why we're here today right now having this conversation. So I'm glad you had reached out about it. So
Yeah, that was a cool first connection for us for sure.
yeah.
And obviously a neat pair to highlight. It's those cool specs that I think sometimes if you're maybe just a surface level fan or even just a fan of gear in general, but you're not kind of super in depth on everything, you might overlook. So I'm glad you guys are able to highlight some of those cool specs and I think bring it to more people's attention. I know I personally am obviously very into it, and it seems like it catches the attention of a lot of people once they get a chance to get a look at what's going on under the hood per se.
Oh yeah, don't underestimate. There's a lot of people out there who care about this stuff. Like so, And the results of the post speak for themselves. So, as always, man, anytime you want, you know where to send your stuff if you want a little amplification on some of the projects that you're working on.
Yeah, and whenever I get something cool, you guys are my first contact. That's for
We
sure.
go. We love it. We appreciate it, man. Um, and just to continue piggybacking off of some of these questions and on this one here, are there any players that you know of who don't go through many pairs of gloves and they like solely rely on you to repalm them? Because we feel like, that and like it's pretty well known now that players go through like some guys are using a new pair of gloves like every 2 games or every 3 games, every game even in some cases. But like we know, Zach, obviously, you're very well versed that like Duncan Keith wore that same pair of Dynasty AX1s, or whatever, like Warrior franchise pair for the longest time, and he just kind of had the Hawks staff make repairs to them. Are there any guys who are like that with you, like where they rely on just you repalming them for them, and it's the same shell or pair of gloves overall?
Yeah, not a ton to be honest. So it's kind of unique. I think it comes down to the feel of it. But a lot of the times, if it's a guy that we're doing multiple pairs of gloves over the course of the season, it's actually a brand new glove that they're sending just for us to get the palm right for them. So I don't know if it's just they like the protection and feel of the new glove itself, but want the palm that they're used to. So yeah, there's not really anybody that's just sending us a raggedy pair of gloves that we're just putting new palms in time and time again. Like I think of like Brad Marchant or something like that. I know when he was
Yeah,
in, when he
perfect.
was,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. When he was in Boston, I know they had a guy locally there that would do glove work for him and repalm that same pair of gloves over and over. I would have to think maybe he had two or three that he cycled through because just having that one pair seems insane. But hey, maybe it
Yeah.
was a single pair. But yeah, no, to answer your question, nobody that we're just getting some gloves that have been through the trenches time and time again. It's usually a new pair that we're modifying to get a specific feel for the player.
Okay, so take Patrick Kane for example, and I know you've done a post on this, but like more specifically, how many of those, and are you probably already have them or you're getting them pretty soon. How many pairs of Patrick Kane gloves are you preparing for him? And is that it for the season, or are you gonna get a couple more like in January and do the same thing over again? Or, give us some of those numbers and specifics.
Yeah, so to kind of walk you through, I guess, the genesis of how that started, and that might kind of get us to where we're looking for this upcoming season. I started doing his gloves last year, if memory serves correctly, in November. So the season had already been underway a little bit. I think he was off to a bit of a slow start, and Paul called me up and it said, "Hey, we're sending you some gloves. The palms that Bauer's putting in, he's just now liking the feel on them. They're too thin. They're just a little slippery for him. He's not digging them. Can you try to do something for him?" So was able to put a Nash palm in there that was kind of more like the classic feel you'd get from a Bauer glove compared to the one that they were putting in. He really digged it. And to go back to a question that you mentioned earlier, Zach, about the rush order type of thing, I remember they sent these gloves, and we were planning on driving back to Michigan for Thanksgiving to be back with our families. And I think these came in on Wednesday. We were planning to leave on Wednesday to go back. And I told my wife, I said, I got to get these done. I got to get these out the door. So we delayed going until I think Thursday morning or something, got these gloves done and got them over to FedEx at like 5:55 for the 6 p.m. pickup for the express shipment. And luckily, Patrick loved them. And then we were doing gloves for him for the rest of the season. I know I ended up last year, we ended up doing 87 pair for him. And again, that was starting in November. So that comes out to more than one pair a game. Um,
87 pairs. Wow.
from
Yeah.
what I had heard, and again, I don't know if this is necessarily true, he was using a new pair roughly every 2 periods.
Hmm.
So again, looking at this year, since we're starting ahead of time, and I do have a box here that I just started the other day on the first pair of many, I would assume. I would expect over 100 again this year, just since we're starting from the get-go. But again, that's assuming that maybe Bauer isn't able to replicate the palm again. At some point, if they're able to match one that he likes, maybe that'll stop. But we're happy to keep answering the bell for as long as they need us to, and we'll just take it week by week. But yeah, last year they would send us usually 12 at a time. We'd get those all dialed in for them and mailed out either back to Little Caesars Arena, or if they were going to be on a long road trip, we'd send them somewhere to be waiting for them. So
Awesome. Yeah. Actually, now that you say that, like he did mention in like a video not long ago that he is pretty close to one pair per game. So
yeah.
that makes perfect sense.
So
Um
many people
and-
tag me in that. And yeah, he says, "Oh, I have one every game," and
yeah,
I'm like, "Is it
yeah.
one per game, or is it less than that? I don't know." But yeah, so that was a funny moment that my DMs blew up when Bauer posted that for sure.
And I remember like a lot of like, and not you mentioned Thanksgiving last year. Like I do remember it around like mid-November. A bunch of like the Red Wing fans and accounts that we follow were saying like we're saying like, when are we gonna start having a conversation about Patrick Kane? Is this the end? So I'm gonna go after this. I'm definitely going to look at his game logs and seeing what his numbers were those like weeks before Thanksgiving and then afterwards. So there we go. ITR Hockey saving the day again. They kept Patrick Kane's season alive with the glove repairment. So
Yeah, no, it's I think it's probably my own bias, but seems like whenever we do a pair for a guy, they get a little ITR bump. They seem to get on the score sheet somehow with some new gloves. But again, I think that might just be me paying attention when we're doing somebody's glove and noticing if they score or get an assist or something. But yeah, happy to help these guys whenever we can. Like I said, sometimes it's a long-term thing, sometimes it's just one or two pair, but whenever we get the call, we try to answer. So.
you know. Yeah. And another player in particular that I really wanted to ask you about and you mentioned him a little bit earlier, is Nikita Kucherov, because he has a bit of a history of going back and forth, like every 4 or 5 games, you see it's the logo of the Vapor 2X Pro, and then you see it's the logo of the Vapor Hyperlight on another night, and now. Obviously, with NHL players and pros, like it can be anything. Like there's so many customizations. These guys have so many options and small specific details that, maybe these gloves aren't even that different. But maybe they are. And I know like we're lucky to have you here who has worked on at least a few of his pairs of gloves. So what can you tell us about his gloves that you maybe you have a theory on why he does that between the Vapor 2X Pros and the Vapor Hyperlights, or maybe you know exactly why, but any insight you have for us on Cooch, we definitely love to hear it.
Yeah, the gloves that have rolled through our shop have been all hyperlights, so I'm not sure exactly what his rhyme or reason is with that. It seems a bit random to me. I've also been paying attention to that, but yeah, can't really tell you why. But yeah, we got the call from the Tampa Bay equipment staff right before playoffs last year, and kind of similar situation to Kane. It's the feel of the palms just don't seem the same for him. The ones that they're sending from the factory. Do you have something that's similar to what he was getting previously? And he would use a gray Clarino palm. And honestly, I think if I remember right with him, it was just the color was a little bit different on the palm. I don't know if the feel was really there or not. It might have just been the visual. But we were able to repalm. I think it was six pair for him that he used through playoffs there, to my knowledge. And unfortunately, they got bounced pretty early on. So I don't know if we would have got the chance to do more or not. But yeah, so that was kind of the story there. A lot of times that's what it is, man. It's these players are very superstitious. They like the feel of the palm, and in his case, just the look of it, right? I mean, just having the wrong color in there is enough to throw off the mojo a little bit. So yeah, why he switches between the two models, I can't really point you in the right direction there. But I know that the pair of hyperlights we did for him. The only thing that I noticed that was a little bit strange, it seemed that the fingers were slightly shorter than a standard. If I remember, he's using a 13-inch glove, if memory serves correct, and they seem just maybe an eighth of an inch shorter on that. So I don't know if it was the example that we got in were maybe thrown in the dryer and shrunk up a little bit, or if that's something they're intentionally doing at Bauer for him. But that was about the only strange thing that I could point out on his gloves.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Um, I don't know if we'll ever get like a clear enough view or like a close-up view to be able to tell the difference. But obviously, like I feel like throughout the season we're constantly like, well, Cooch is back in those Hyperlight gloves. Oh, now 3 games later he's back in those Vapor 2X Pros. So maybe we'll get an answer one day. And if you do come across that, I would appreciate a text or something from you for some closure on that. But like we said, like, this is just what we do. Obviously, we've got to keep track of it, and yeah, I mean that's pretty cool that uh you were able to make those adjustments for him. Like that's another big guy to have like on your resume, so to speak. So
Yeah.
that's another hat tip toward you for sure.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, if I uncover that mystery, you'll get a text from me right away. Don't worry.
Awesome, awesome.
So just sitting here listening to some of the names that you've mentioned that you've worked on, and this is strictly a collector question for me. Do you save or do you have like a pair of like any of these guys just like hanging around that you keep for yourself as a like almost like a trophy, almost a sense like, yeah, I did this, guys, and I have it here kind of thing? Or is it just strictly everything getting sent right back to them?
Yeah, I would honestly, I'd love to start kind of collecting and keeping some of those. I haven't quite worked up the gumption to ask the equipment guys to send me a pair yet, but maybe we'll get there. Probably the coolest thing if I get a really, a guy that I find kind of neat, that I'm doing work on him, I'll save the palms. So I have like game used Kucherov and Kane gloves and
Oh, that's
Ron
awesome.
and Duchesne and all these guys. So I save these. I haven't really figured out a cool way to display them yet, but I guess maybe that's my small little trophy from these gloves that we're working on. So yeah, no, having a full pair of gloves though would be pretty cool. At some point, like I said, maybe I'll work up the gumption to ask them to send me a pair when they're done with them. But I know they usually like to sell them in the team store for a pretty penny, so maybe
Yeah.
my luck won't be so good on that front.
That's awesome. Yeah, for sure. And then too, like what's like the coolest or like your favorite like classic, player glove that you've worked on, like, an old school Easton, old school Bauer, or something like that, anything like that.
We've seen a
Yeah,
few of those on your feed, so there's probably a few selections that could be in play here.
yeah. Oh man, that's a great question. Obviously, like being a glove guy, I there's different models and makes that I'm like, oh, I love this about that certain glove. So to pick one specifically might be tough, but I personally I wish Easton was still around. I loved just their classic like E Pro 4 roll style glove. Like that was such a goat glove in my opinion. I mean, you saw how many players in the NHL used that at one point. I mean, that was kind of the standard. So I don't know. Working on those, actually, they're a very nice glove to work on, not super complicated or super hard to work on. So I enjoy seeing those anytime they come in. And I've managed to collect a few pair of those myself over the years. So those are always a favorite. Some of the older Eagle gloves are pretty cool. I don't know if you guys have ever seen, they did a short run that was like completely made out of a horsehide or goat leather. Those are
Oh
pretty
yeah.
cool, and I've had a chance to work on a few of those for customers along the way, and those are pretty neat to see. But yeah, honestly, it's always cool if a pair comes in that I've never worked on. And at this point, I feel like I've seen most makes and models, but occasionally something comes in where I'm like, man, I've never done a pair of these before. I've worked on multiple pairs of Franklin gloves before, but I've never had any
Oh wow.
NHL or Pro Stock versions, and I have a pair in the shop right now of Detroit Vipers, so IHL Pro Stock
Oh
Franklin
wow.
gloves. I think the model is either 8505 or 9505, but those will be cool. I'm looking forward to working on those. So, anytime you get something like that where it's just a little bit outside of the ordinary, it's always a cool little moment to enjoy.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Totally.
if I guess to turn I'm just curious for you guys, if you could bring back like one glove or one gear company, I guess per se, what's kind of a favorite for you guys that's maybe not around anymore?
Easton.
Yeah,
I grew up using Easton, and yeah, I mean, I know Bauer's kind of bringing their technology back a little bit here and there, but yeah, there's nothing beats the classic Eastons on
Mhm.
skates, gloves, sticks.
Yeah,
Yeah, even like I remember I had a pair of those. I don't think they were the EQ 50s. They may have been the EQ 30s, but even those, like, yeah, like just the way they were, like, they had like the classic four roll structure. Yeah, those were pretty good. But honestly, like now I've in my later years, like once I got into my 20s and like even now, like I've been more of a Warrior glove guy
Hmm.
to be honest. Like I think um I've started warming up to like the Covert QRE model, but I think my favorite glove of all time is the Covert QR1. I
Hmm.
just Eric Carlson wore them for so long. Sebastian Aho wore them for so long. Elias
Yeah.
Lindholm. I think I like the design. I like the feel. I think the Warrior Covert QR1 is the king of all pairs of gloves in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good one for sure. Very cool. Yeah, the I know kind of going back to Easton for a quick sec. I know we were talking about the Red Wings early on. That was one of my memories. I remember just seeing Iserman had like those, I think it was Easton Z Air gloves. It was the same ones that
Yeah.
him and Sakic wore. Those are pretty cool. And a couple years ago, I had a pair of Columbus Blue Jackets Pro Stock version of those gloves come in to get worked on. And again, that
Oh.
was just kind of a cool moment where I'm like, I've never seen a pair like this before. Maybe I never will. I don't know. So it was cool to do a repalm on those. But yeah, Easton, come on. I know all those patterns are in the vault somewhere at Bauer. Like bring them back. Just a limited production run, throwback Easton mitts. Those
Oh
things are
yeah.
like hotcakes. I know it.
One day it's gonna be like it's gonna be like the second coming of Jesus for all of us hockey fans. If it's gonna happen, I got a feeling it's gonna happen, but
Yeah,
we can only hope, I suppose.
fingers crossed.
Yeah. Now we've kept you for a while. We definitely appreciate it, but before we wrap up, we just want to give you guess one last chance to kind of hype yourself up a little bit. And this might be a little bit redundant, like you've obviously shared a number of projects already. But is there one that, like story or like proud moment that you have that you were like really like wow, like I crushed it right there. What would you pick is was one of your favorites?
Yeah. I would say going to the P Hats conference last summer and having so many equipment guys come up to me and either say, "Oh, you're Ian from ITR Hockey, so good to meet you," and then even a step further from that, so many guys coming up and just saying like, "Thank you so much." Like we didn't know what to do. Like our guy was just kind of at his wit's end. We didn't know if he was going to have to switch brands, switch models, or whatever. And you were able to dial in his gloves and get them fixed. Like, thank you so much. So that was really cool, very rewarding. Just kind of like, man, these guys even know who I am, number one, but then just getting that positive feedback was really cool. Sometimes when during the course of the season, obviously it's very quick. They're sending us gloves. We're trying to solve the problem and just having it be as smooth of a process as possible. So we'll ask for feedback, but it's not like we're trying to bug these guys and ask them, hey, what do you think? This, that, and the other thing. So sometimes you don't get a ton of feedback, right? It's just like, yep, you liked them. Thanks so much. That's great. So getting a little bit more in-depth chance to talk to these equipment managers and gear reps, especially too, and just having them say, thanks so much for everything. We really appreciate the work you're doing and filling the void. Now that custom pro repair is gone and hockey menders are gone. That's been kind of a I don't know a very proud moment for me. Again, kind of solidifying myself in the business here. So if I had to pick one, that's one that stands out for sure.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, good on you, man. This was an amazing conversation. We've kept you for over an hour now, and we definitely appreciate you coming on. And who knows? I mean, we've got a whole season ahead of us where surely you're about to get your fair share of projects on your plate, and there's probably going to be some good ones. Hopefully, we can connect on social for at least a few of them, and if it gets to a point, we might even invite you back on to come elaborate on some of them a little bit more because this really was a great conversation and it was a nice different perspective of it. And for those of you listening and following along here, Make sure you follow Ian and all the great work he's doing on Instagram, ITR underscore hockey. That's ITR underscore hockey on Instagram. Ian Roberts, the best in the business when it comes to glove palming. And if you need your gloves repalmed, send them to him. Like, check out the website. Is the website just itrhockey.com?
It's itrhockeyllc.com. So yeah,
LLC.com.
hop on
Okay,
there,
yeah.
check it out, and we got a contact form. You can fill that out, and we'll get a estimate for you and get you all dialed in.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, man. We'll definitely be in touch, and all the best with all the projects and everybody hounding you and looking for your excellent service throughout the season. We'll definitely be following along as always.
Sounds great, guys. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I'd be down to come back on, whether it's to talk about new projects or if you want to put everybody to sleep, we can really get into the differences between materials and different glove models and all that stuff. So, but yeah, no, happy to do it again, and I had a great time today. This was a lot of fun.
Awesome,
Awesome.
man.
Yeah.
Be well. We'll be in touch.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks so much.